風ですな、陛下。
Oh
このまま
god.
風に恵まれれば2、3日のうちにはケティル農場に到着するでしょう。我ら用務戦士団にお任せくだされば
I'm
十
sure.
分でありましょう。クヌーと陛下には深いお考えがおありなのです。不老気度くどくど詮索せぬが家臣の分というものだ。ヨムスボルムは連合国です。
Oh.
私は家臣とは少し違う。お忘れなくウルフだ。
抵抗すると思うか、ケテルどもは。王を相手に。
ケティルメは戦地で鉄拳とあだ名される猛者だ。油断はできません。
そうは見えなかったがな。
Yeah. Great judge of character, eh?
むやみに失いたくはない。ケテルどもが王の意におののき降伏するならば、それに越したことはない。逆らうならば容赦はせぬつもりだ。されど波高く求むる地は未だ陶器にあり。
That must mean that Kettle and his men are much closer. If Canute is 3 days out.
ケティルの旦那のお帰りかと思ったらトールギルさんだ。
Kettle's in one of them.
トールギルさん。
Oh my god.
おう、土産だ。受け取り。
Look at this man.
戦の準備だ。もうすぐ敵の軍団がここに来るぞ。この農場。
Talk about a
丸ごと奪いにな。
shock to the system.
竹の男と武器を集めろ。
Yeah. These are not fighters.
その辺のことは親父と相談してくれ。俺は忙しいんだ。
Leave his hair.
オルマール、はい来い。相手が相手だ。これが最後の戦になるかもしれねえがな。嬉しいだろオルマル。お前のやりたがってた戦争だぞ。
Nah.
あるねえぞ。
Oh.
え？
予感がするんでしょう、親父。今度はきっと本物のトルフィンですって。
That's alright. You're a Thorfinn as well. You're also a real Thorfinn.
そうだな。いや、修理だってお前。こんなもん数日で直せるかよ。
Oh my god.
つうか相手はどこだ。
それが教えてくれねえんだ。兵隊が集まったら発表するって。
Uff.
相手がどこだろうと無理だぜ。この農場にはまともな戦争経験者が足りねえもんよ。
だな。どうするかな。
Yeah, me too, man. Me too.
逃亡したら。
かもな。お腹に旦那の子もいるわけだし。
There's just this tension, this feeling of unease.
無事なのかな。誓いを破ってまで。どうしても戦わなきゃ。
I was legitimately just about to say it.
ありがとう、トルフィン。
俺はヘビさんが好きだ。
Hebi.
優しくて筋の通った人だと思う。
The second part is certainly true.
戦いたくなかった。結局ガルザルさんを死なせてしまった。
Ah, yeah. Here's that guilt.
もっといい方法があったんじゃないかって。そんな道を俺は探そうとしたのかって。
無理だよ。あれだけ客人が死んでしまったらヘビさんだって引けない。
それでも暴力は最後の手段だ。
And it was in this case, Thorfinn.
一番いい方法って何だったんだろう。何が始まりだったんだろう。
He'll work these things out over time.
最初の手段を
First method.
見つけられるようになりた
Our
い。
title of the episode.
傷つけていい人間なんて
No one is your enemy.
どこにもいないんだ。
その通りだ。
god, he's about to find out.
あの奴隷のアバズレ女なら縛り上げて馬小屋に放り込んでありますよ。逃亡を企てたんですよ。旦那様へのご恩も忘れてね。
She's definitely not going to paint
も
her in like
うアルネイズが
sympathetic light.
この件いい加減に済ませちゃいけませんよ、あなた。
There's a lot of pressure.
逃亡
But he's not getting past just that aspect of it.
なぜ何もかもわしの手からこぼれていくんだ。
Oh god.
逃亡だと
Oh god. Is this man about to reach his breaking point?
なぜだ。
失礼ですがリーフさん、奴隷購入の資金に余裕は終わりですか？
はい、まあ多少トルフィンはタダで譲ってもらえる約束ですし。
トルフィンとエイナルはなんとかなるでしょう。
There's another though that
ただアルネイズが難しい。トルフィンの他にあと2人奴隷を身請けしてはいただけませんか？
I don't know if it's going to be that easy though, man. Kettle's just a little bit unhinged at the moment, disturbed.
どうせ旦那はお前の尻を2、3回引っ叩くだけで全部許しちまうよ。
They all keep thinking that.
甘いからな、あの人は。お前の罰が俺たち客人に任されてなくてよかったな。今頃お前裸にひんむかれてな。俺たち全員にズタズタに。
That was just normal back then.
何をしている。
旦那、帰ってらしたね。
アルネイズに用が。
Ooh, look at the camera.
俺は
逃げようとしたの
The
か。
horses are freaking out, eh?
なぜだ。なぜわからん。
Oh no. Oh no.
ダメね。わしを蔑むか。
Speak, speak. Oh wow, look at the detail.
わしの誇りを奪う者は許さん。
Yeah, yeah.
たとえそれがお前
Never again, right? Oh. Tell him.
赤ちゃんがお腹で
And now he'll think, oh, you tried to run away with my child?
これ以上はお許しを。
誰の子だ。
誓って旦
Ah,
那様のお子です。本当です。
is he going to believe it though?
信じるだと。わしはお前だけを信じていたのだ。
Oh my god.
何を信じろというのだ。信じるとはどういうことだ。信じてたぞ。思い知らせてくれ。
Oh my god.
盗とともにこの手で罰を。
確かにアルネイズの罪の重さなら棒打ちは当然でしょう。しかしこれ以上殴れば死刑になる。アルネイズはあんたの奴隷だ。あんたは彼女を殺す権利を持っている。いいんなら俺はこの手を棒から離します。
It's like, let me kind of step in and help him kind of regain a bit of composure, maybe. I mean, she might be.
手当てしておけパテーラ。
トルフィンの他にもう2人奴隷がいると聞いた。2人ともトルフィンの友達だと。金は払います。
誰がいらんと言った。トルフィンとエイナルはどこにと連れて行けばいい。
Not going anywhere.
その女はわしのものだ。
Tragic. This is beyond tragic. Her existence.
助かるかどうかはわからない。
I mean, the child is certainly lost, right? At this point.
許さんぞ。どいつもこいつも盗人だ。やることは山ほどあ
Yeah,
るの
he's
ぜ。
got this newfound conviction at the moment.
あと、俺用に具足を。
Busts out the sword.
たとえそれが
Oh my god.
王であろうとも。
Yeah. Poor bastards. All right, folks, episode 18. Yeah, titled The First Method, right? I suppose it's essentially alluding to diplomacy, right? I believe that might be the term Thorfinn is searching for, looking for. You know, he's a little bit self-deprecating in that manner, or in that matter, calls himself stupid because, you know, he's not able to articulate these ideas that he has in his mind, right? He's quite the opposite. He's not stupid, right? He's actually ahead of his time even. And of course, throughout the span of this episode, this idea of the first method, yeah, it's on display, isn't it? Through a few different characters. You even have Snake, who steps in. I mean, he steps in at quite a crucial moment, doesn't he? Listen, he had no obligation to step in. He could have just stood back and let it all play out. And I'll get to that. You know, it's really interesting how Snake kind of handled that situation. I mean, he kind of diffused the situation quite effectively. And I'm sure, you know, he was probably quite sure that he'll be able to de-escalate the situation, right? Because, you know, they have a rapport. They've been around each other for some time now. He knows that Kettle does kind of respect his opinion, or at least there is that understanding that he is able to essentially step in that manner, right? He stops him. For the first moment, he essentially stops him from hitting Arnheid any further, inflicting any more damage, pain. So that in itself is a massive step, isn't it? But I believe that he felt that he's in a position to do that. Snake is just so fascinating, man. Listen, you know, all of them are so fascinating. Kettle is fascinating. These characters are just so painfully human. So painfully human, so authentic. Ah, man. You know, Kettle's actions in this episode are not justifiable at all. I mean, at all. These are the actions of a coward, I believe. These are the actions of a deeply flawed individual who crumbles, who just absolutely crumbles under pressure. Now, you know, like I said, you know, first of all, you simply cannot justify anything he's done here, but you can certainly understand how he got to this point, right? They've done a good job of that, and they simply had to, right? So it doesn't feel like it's out of the blue. It's not. I'm sure many of us expected some sort of outburst, given everything that's been happening to him. You know, there's a close-up shot of him after quite a comedic anime moment, a rare anime moment a rare comedic anime moment or goofy anime moment as Thorgil rolls the barrel and kind of, you know, takes out the retainers like pins, right, at a bowling alley. And then, of course, his father goes rolling, right? So a rare goofy moment. And I've got to say, it kind of felt a little bit out of place in this specific episode as well. But yeah, you know, that close-up of him, my goodness. I mean, first of all, the man is a grown-ass man, and he spent the entire time in a barrel. That alone should tell you so much about this man and his psyche. But yeah, that close-up shot of him, you know, oh my God, the moment I saw that shot, nothing had to be stated. You just knew that this man is so disturbed at this moment. He looked traumatized in that moment, right? Almost as if he's this child that needed his guardian figure, needed his mother, right? There is a bit of a twisted notion of that, isn't it? how he seeks that comfort in Arnheid. And of course, the moment he just ignores everything and begins asking about Arnheid, you just know it's a wrap. Because that is the last place, that's the only place left to him that could provide a bit of an escape, that could give him that comfort that he so badly desires at the moment, that escape he so badly needs at the moment, right? And then, of course, I suppose to him it's the ultimate betrayal, right? Deluded, certainly deluded. Let's not get it twisted. He created this situation in his mind. He created this notion in his mind that Arnheid loves him like he loves her, cares for him like he cares for her. She's just playing along. She's been playing along. She has no other choice. She's a slave, a sex slave at that. So, he had this idea built up in his head, this misplaced idea or notion that, this is someone that loves me, that cares for me, someone I can be open with, right? Share my troubles and, dark secrets with. But no, to him, it's essentially the ultimate betrayal. And it is the final, it's the final moment before his breaking point. It tips him over. Right? So a lot of it is also due to timing, right? Listen, if he's coming back and it's business as usual, he's his jolly self, and I'm doing air quotes at the moment. And also, sometimes I like to just get the mic in my hand and stand up and just talk into it. And that's the thing I'm doing right now. I'm sure you've noticed. It kind of switches back and forth. Sometimes I'll sit in front of the camera in my normal setup, and sometimes I just feel like standing up and pacing around and have the microphone in my hand. I don't know. Sometimes it feels like it's quite effective in getting the flow going, getting my thoughts going. It's been an interesting experiment, essentially, and I like it. So I do like to switch it from time to time, but I know that it's not for everyone. Sometimes people like to see my face, I suppose, as I'm giving my thoughts, right? I get that. It's understandable because I know it can kind of shift into that podcast territory, right? If there's no face attached to the voice that's coming out of it. But yeah, that's my reasoning for it. Sometimes I like to do it. I also like to do it a lot for Ava. If there's footage of it, it'd be really quite comical because it's usually me pacing around, and like a lot of just hand movement. I mean, that's already a known thing. I'm quite the hand talker, as you guys have known for a few years now. But yeah, going back to my initial point about Kettle, imagine a scenario of him coming back and he's really quite happy, right? He's just back. It's business as usual. And he comes into this situation, right? It might have played out a bit differently, right? Or again, it's a bit of an unknown. You can only speculate, but it's possible that even if he came in a good mood, and he wasn't already pushed to the edge, to his limits, it's still possible that, Arnheid specifically, or, him hearing about Arnheid specifically pulling the stunt, right? It still might have triggered him to that potential outcome. And again, let's reiterate, it's all because of this deluded reality that he's kind of built up in his head about his relationship with Arnheid, right? My goodness, and how about his wife? She certainly did her part to paint Arnheid in the most negative light, right? Calling her husband old flame. I believe there's this line of dialogue. She's going on about her being this ungrateful slave. Are you fucking kidding me? My God. The audacity. And of course, there is this idea of him feeling as if everything keeps slipping away from his grasp, right? He's really questioning it. I mean, ultimately, he felt that he had no control over anything anymore, right? Everything that could go wrong is going wrong. One thing is for sure, the man's been pushed to his limits and then some. And he broke, like I said, painfully human, right? He's deeply flawed. And the one thing that he deluded himself into thinking is that Arnheid is always there, that Arnheid's always going to be there for him. She cares for me. You know, that's the one thing I do have control over. But then he ends up feeling that even Arnheid played him. And I do believe that ultimately he was trying to gain or recapture some level of control once again, some semblance of control through that brutal beating of Arnheid. Reprehensible. It's disgusting. It's out of control. Listen, the man's true colors came through, right? They've essentially adequately set up that this man crumbles under or in the face of conflict, right? He runs from it. He dreads it. He fears it. He does not know how to handle it. And of course, a few episodes ago, they gave us an important bit of backstory for Kettle, right? To kind of help us, the audience, understand how he became the person that he is today. But yeah, like I said, he completely just falls apart and that facade that he has on just dissipates, doesn't it? Listen, this man continues to beat her, and he would have killed her if Snake didn't step in, right? He continues to beat her after finding out that she is with child. His child. But ultimately, I think he was in this state of paranoia that I don't think he actually believed it at that point, right? This man is in no shape or form to be thinking logically. Even though he knows he's the only one who has access to her, right? He owns her. Right? She has no say in any of this. Everyone on the farm knows that this is the master's property. You know, all the retainers, the guests, they all know about Arnheid and how Master Kettle is around her or with her. But of course, in that state of paranoia, he begins to probably think that, okay, maybe even that's a lie. You know, how can I believe her? He's essentially not ready to believe anything anymore. And essentially by the end of the episode, you see that he has resigned to death, right? I mean, he doesn't know that. He doesn't believe it, but us, the audience, knows, of course. He has resigned to his own death and many of the people on that farm, right? Because he has kind of reiterated his desire to make the thieves pay. I'm not taking this shit anymore. I mean, it is an interesting dynamic, this newfound conviction. It's almost, I shouldn't say it's a direct mirror to Thorfinn's oath moment from episode 9, but you see that it's a changed man all of a sudden. And all of a sudden, you see that indeed Thorgil is Kettle's son. Right? It makes a lot of sense. I mean, episodes ago at this point, it felt like such a foreign idea that Thorgil could ever come from someone like Kettle. But no. His true colors shine through. The things he's capable of kind of come through. But also, before I go any further, I'm not saying that he's just like Thorgil, right? I mean, Thorgil is a different specimen altogether in that sense. But now, there's more of a link to them. But there are some clear elements here on display that make it seem like, okay, yeah, that's definitely Thorgil's dad. I mean, Thorgil is certainly not a coward like his father. His father is. I think that, I'm not sure if everyone's going to agree with that, but he is. It's just in his nature, ultimately. But they do share a few things, that's for sure. And of course, the scene itself is, it's really quite graphic in detail, and it's clearly by design. They're not trying to cut away from the actual blows being landed. The first one is really quite jarring. I mean, all of it is quite jarring, and I'm sure for some it's really difficult. I have thick skin. I've seen a lot of things in my lifetime, folks. I mean, I've watched all kinds of interesting films, to say the least. I've seen some shit. But yeah, even so, that was difficult, right? And the fact that it's Arnheid, it just hurts so much. I mean, of course, any slave in that position, anyone who has no say in their life, being in that position is quite a hurtful moment to watch. But Arnheid specifically, in the in the context of this anime and the story and the things she's been through, it is just it's heartbreaking stuff, isn't it? To see her go through this. Like I said, it's a tragic existence. No one deserves it. No one does. And it's clearly by design that the Thorfinn and Einar talk, and I think it's really quite an impactful scene as well. The talk about that no one deserves to be hurt, or there is no person who deserves to be hurt, right? You have no enemies. I mean, it is certainly by design that it goes from that scene and it transitions immediately to Kettle and how he handles that situation, right? His first method. But yeah, I've got to say, I really enjoyed that scene. Thorfinn and Einar talking it out. Thorfinn still contemplating how things played out, how they handled all of this. If indeed breaking his oath in that moment was the right choice, right? He's still really quite skeptical of it all. I mean, I believe it was the right choice at that point, at that specific moment, right? It was the last resort. Snake was not going to back down. He simply was not. And Einar understood it. He understood that. And even Thorfinn himself understood that. But still, there is this doubt in his mind. And it's good to see. Of course, it's good to see that he's thinking in this manner. Like I said earlier, the man is not stupid. Even if he believes he is, he's not. But of course, even if Einar assured him that there was no other choice anymore and that was the last resort, he still, right? He still kept thinking. He was still skeptical, right? Even so, he feels that there has to be a better way. And I love that he's actively engaging with this side of himself now, right? Taking that initiative to think of solutions for the future, right? Already kind of thinking about these potential situations he might run into the future, or in the future, excuse me. He's going to be taking a lot from this run-in, from this situation. And you see that it really bothers him. It does. And it's something that is going to kind of stay with him, right? This notion of, could I have done something better? Could I have taken another approach? I mean, hell, he's going to get an immediate chance at that, most likely, because Canute is 3 days out, right? So in that sense, I suppose it's essentially setting up that by the next episode, at some point in the next episode, Canute is going to show up, right? Maybe it could be one of those ending scenes, kind of showing us Canute and the crew, including Floki, showing up at Kettle's farm, or nearby at least. But yeah, of course, there's a chance he'll be potentially facing Canute real soon. But I mean, come on, of course, us audience knows, they're not going to make Canute come this close to Thorfinn and then not have a scene. I'm sure that is going to happen, right? I can picture that being quite a massive moment, quite a impactful moment for this season. And yeah, all of this is going to be put to the test all over again for Thorfinn, right? And now I think I'll get a chance to see how he's going to kind of look at this situation and how it was handled, and then kind of, retouch it, kind of expand on it, and think of other solutions, right? So I'm really quite excited and really quite fascinated by the idea of this Thorfinn meeting this Canute. I mean, I've been saying that for some time now, but yeah, it's fascinating setup for sure, because they've essentially already set up that he's not going to spare anyone if they defy him, right? He's going to crush them all, essentially, right? Of course, by the end of the episode, they've shown us that Kettle most certainly plans on defying the king. And of course, I do know there is a mini episode linking episodes 18 and 19, 18.5, I believe, and I'll be watching that before episode 19. It'll be part of that reaction. But yeah, let's kind of go back to that scene. Yeah. Even the first strike, the really jarring first strike that catches, everyone by surprise, even Arnheid. I don't think she was ever expecting Kettle to, lash out in that manner. Hell, she might have thought that, I'll get punished. But, maybe it's not going to be the end of the world, right? It might be a little bit painful, but, she might have felt that she knows Kettle. And yeah, she spent a lot of time with him. But, this is this is kind of like the unknown zone. He's kind of dipped into unknown territory at this point. He's been pushed beyond his limits. It's kind of broken his psyche at the moment, right? He's, at this point, he's in this state of mind of thinking that, okay, everyone's out to get me. These thieves, they want to take everything from me. They want to take my pride. How much can a man take? He's in that line of thinking at the moment. But I know it's a little bit strange to say, but that scene, the voice acting, the sound design, oh my God, the sound design is a little too good in that scene, isn't it? Again, by design. I think they want you to feel all of that because, they're not trying to sugarcoat it. They're not. The voice acting from Arnheid's voice actor, Kettle's voice acting, it's all really some top tier stuff. It really is, right? It's really quite impactful. It's not one of those anime moments where it's like, okay, yeah, someone's getting hurt. This felt authentic. It felt raw. It felt like live action almost, right? That's the thing I kind of keep going back to about this anime specifically. It just feels also authentic. Like I said earlier, and a few times at this point, these characters are just so painfully human, right? And the thing is, you think of his actions in this episode, yes, reprehensible, disgusting, he's deluded. Like, I'm still baffled by the notion of him having the audacity to think that Arnheid has betrayed him, that she has no reason to escape, that she should never even think of that possibility. That possibility just breaks his mind that she was trying to escape, right? But again, the situation wasn't really explained in great detail to him anyways. But I feel like he was at a point that even if anyone tried to explain, even if Arnheid tried to explain, he would have taken it as, okay, she's just bullshitting. She's making shit up now, right? He's at that stage. He's a bit of paranoia set in at that point. He didn't know if he can even believe her anymore, right? So he's essentially just killed his own child, most likely. Unfortunately, it'd be pretty unrealistic, I think, for Arnheid to survive this. And one of the most heartbreaking moments of this episode and the season altogether is Einar in that position, right? Oh my God, the voice acting. Oh, as he leans in beside her, right? It's so heartbreaking that he cannot embrace her because Peter told him that, no, don't, man, don't. That's how fragile her condition is, that she cannot even be held or moved, for that matter, from her position. And Peter knows, right? He said as much almost immediately. I don't think she's going to make it out of this alive. And of course, Peter's reaction to all of this is really quite telling as well. And then, of course, you see that alongside Einar, all of them are there, right? The incredible Leif Erikson, who at first is a little bit, hesitant about the notion of buying a few more slaves, right? But even so, even that moment of hesitation, he's still not saying no to it or anything. But the moment he sees the treatment of Arnheid, he immediately just offers to buy her, to get her out of this insane situation, right? But of course, all of us knew. All of us have known for some time now, there's no chance in hell this man is ever going to let Arnheid go. I mean, of course, like I said, she doesn't have much left anyways anymore, much time left anyways. But yeah, beyond that, this man is, you see that he doesn't even care about Thorfinn and Einar helping Arnheid. He's like, yeah, take them. You're free to take both of them, right? Because ultimately they did earn their freedom anyways. And the one thing all of us know about Kettle is that he is a man of his word, as Peter reassures Leif Erikson and the other man who is a part of his crew, I suppose, who's essentially just trying to get paid. And he'll get paid, of course. But of course, you see that Thorfinn and Leif Erikson are in the same scene. So they've reunited at this point. It's happened off screen. And I think it's actually understandable. It's fitting. Of course, getting a chance to see Leif Erikson come across this Thorfinn for the first time, this new Thorfinn, a man reborn. My goodness, yeah, of course. It's something I certainly had in my mind as a scene I'm looking forward to quite a bit. But there's a time and there's a time and place, right? It just wouldn't make sense to have this really heartfelt, happy moment, a reunion. You know, that's just not the tone of this episode at all. It would have stuck out like a sore thumb, right? I mean, that being said, I think it could have been doable, right? You could have done it in like a somber manner, a somber fashion that they both kind of just embrace, and, you know, based on the situation and the tone of the situation they're in, they kind of just, you know, set that aside for later, catching up and all that. It could have been done, I think, but it's completely understandable that they've kind of skipped it altogether, right? I think there is going to be time for that later, and of course that's assuming both, you know, Leif Erikson and Thorfinn make it out of this. I mean, you know, they've already kind of told us that people like Einar are also going to make it out of this. You go all the way back to episode 1. I've referenced that moment a few times, you know, the narration, because he is speaking to someone else, and he's speaking to someone else about Thorfinn and how they met, and, you know, how this friendship took off. So they'll have time. They'll have time for all of that later. But let me go back to one of the standout moments of this episode, for me at least. It's Snake stepping in. Like I said, he had absolutely no obligation to step in. And I firmly believe that he is doing it for Arnheid at this point, right? It's been established that he's a realist. You know, yes, even though he felt that he had to he had to kill Garter for the things he did to his men he clearly cares about, right? Whose lives he cares about. I think even so, he's a realist. It's all due to circumstance, right? This is the situation they find themselves in. It goes back to Gramps and the ideas he was kind of speaking of. You know, it's a flip of the coin. They just happen to be the unlucky ones in this position. So I think Snake understood. And perhaps there is even a bit of, you know, paying her back, maybe. Maybe he comes to understand, or he was told that indeed it was Arnheid who stepped in to stop Garter from, you know, choking him out or choking him to death. And he would have done it. He would have done it if Arnheid didn't calm him down. But yeah, I think he is so good in this scene, isn't he? He's so tactful because he knew he had to be. And again, like I said earlier, he found himself in a unique position as essentially the only one around that could do something like this and kind of de-escalate the situation. He knew how to handle Kettle. You know, he certainly gave him the respect he deserves as the master. And he reiterates that, you know, everything you're doing here, you have every right to do it, right? This is your property. But of course, that pause allows Snake to put it out there that you are trying to execute her, right? Because of course, if you continue doing this, you'll kill her, right? He puts it out there in the open in that manner. And it gets through to Kettle, right? He gets through. He gets him to give up at that point. I mean, unfortunately, she's probably going to end up dying anyways, but Snake did that. He did that, and he had no obligation to do that. But yeah, you know, I thought he handled it perfectly because he knew he had to do it in a manner that does not undermine the master, because he's in this really fragile state at the moment. He's a little bit unhinged. And you say one wrong thing, you say one thing that makes him feel like he's being attacked, or his pride is being attacked once again, he would have lashed out even more, right? But again, you know, there's that notion of him needing Snake as well, and some of Snake's men, right? Even though it's a foregone conclusion that they're not going to be able to put up a fight at all. It's going to have to be another solution. But you know, the sad thing is there is going to be a bit of a massacre at first, isn't there? Because they're going to war. Kettle just confirms it by the end of it, doesn't he? And of course, you have Thorgil, who is telling everyone to prepare for this, but he's being clever as well, right? He's not telling anyone who the enemy is, because he knows if he gets that information out there now, most of these people are going to flee, right? No one's going to want to stand up against the king and his army, right? So, you know, once it gets real close, I guess he'll just let them see for themselves, essentially. Right? Or he'll let him know once it's kind of impossible to escape. I'm sure some of them might try to escape anyways. But yeah, you know, he's all in. He's excited about this as expected. But someone who's not excited about this is Olmar. He's really quite apprehensive about this whole thing. Yeah, you know, I feel for the kid. I do. I just really hope he survives this somehow, right? Gets out of this whole situation and then gets the chance to get his perspective of life in order, right? And gets to go on his own true path in life. But yeah, you know, again, before any of that can potentially happen, there's going to be hell to face, right? A trial by fire is at his doorstep, and he'll be a part of it, right? He'll be part of this carnage. He'll see more of it. And of course, you see that Canute rather not have it go down in this manner, but he is more than open to decimating them, right? Crushing them if they defy him, right? He said something really interesting, didn't he? He said something like, people are assets, right? Resources. I mean, no, I think assets is the term he used, and that's certainly a bit more harsh, isn't it? I'd hate to waste them. Yeah, he's certainly thinking like a king, all right. And you see that his late father is quite amused, really quite amused, once again, looking on from the shadows and seeing just how much his son is like himself, like his own late father, right? That he is open to doing these things, that he is allowing himself to do these things, right? The necessary things in Canute's mind. But yeah, finally, I kind of want to finish up on a point that I brought up at one point, I think, and I kind of moved on before finishing it. Yeah, you know, the actions of Kettle in this one, reprehensible, disgusting, right? He's a deluded fellow, for sure. But then think about some of the characters that all of us love. Askeladd, right? Thorfinn and the part he played in a lot of these things in that phase of his life. Thorkel, all these people. Askeladd, go back to one of the standout episodes, one of the greatest episodes of anime altogether. Season 1, episode 14. The things Askeladd does in that episode butchers the entire village. Yeah. You know, it's an interesting dynamic, isn't it? And of course, us, the audience, certainly understood that the things Askeladd is doing there and the things he's capable of are really quite dark, really quite disgusting, right? But again, you know, he's a character that a lot of us really liked because he is a fantastic character. That's undeniable. And that, you know, that aspect of his character, that nature of his character, that is one of the reasons he is so fascinating. A lot of us like Canute. A lot of us really enjoy that character. Even though he's done some things now at this point that are really quite questionable, but he does them for his goal, for that utopia of his. The ends justify the means. So yeah, you know, it's all by design. It's all by design. You know, you have Kettle here, and his actions are just so dark and disgusting. Yet a lot of our favorites have done a lot of similar things. I mean, you can argue that they've done worse, right? Though, you know, it feels a little bit icky to compare the things that they've done. You know, I mean, this is just a beautiful soul who is with child getting just brutally beaten, right? Yeah, let's not do the comparison thing, but yeah, you know, it's an interesting dynamic, isn't it? But yeah, I think that should do it for this one, folks. If you enjoyed that, consider dropping a like, consider dropping some comments, give me your thoughts. If you are interested in full opacity, high quality full opacity, you know, timer-based full length, and a bunch of other stuff that's going on the channel at the moment, consider checking out the Patreon page and potentially supporting the channel. If you are interested, the links are in the description and the pinned comment. Also links to social media, things like Twitter and Instagram, again, if that's your thing. But yeah, episode 19 up next. And of course, like I said, I'll be checking out 18.5 as well before that. And it'll be a part of that reaction, of course. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me, folks. And thank you for your time, because time is precious. It really is. And I do hope to see you again soon for the next one. Until then, take it easy.